rundown.
Yeah, look at you. Look at us spoiling you with all of these new graphics and everything. I mean, I'm quite at sea. Right, I'm very excited to say that it is now time for our tech rundown. We're now going live to Sydney, Australia to join Davis Fang, who is our tech presenter. Good evening. Is it evening?
Good morning, David.
Morning, morning. Hello, Davis. Very good to see you. How are you?
Yeah, it's great to be back. I'm very happy to be here. And what a great week it has been for tech news as well. Massive.
Yeah, it has actually. Come on then, where do you want to start?
Well, maybe great isn't the right word. It's actually been quite awful, hasn't it? There's been 1 million layoffs across the board, not only from Twitter, not only from Apple, but most definitely Meta.
Yeah, so this is the parent company of Facebook and other sort of social media apps. So this is really interesting just in terms of Meta. So Meta has cut 11,000 jobs. Mark Zuckerberg says, I got this wrong. Essentially, he is calling himself responsible for the first major round of layoffs in the social media giant's history. Now, that is about 13% of the workforce. Now, is this, Davis, is this because basically when they bought Facebook, he's invested all this money in the metaverse, in this virtual reality universe, which basically no one's using?
Yes, that the metaverse is definitely one of Zuckerberg's biggest mistake, I would say, right now. But that's not the only part of Facebook's issues, as we know, because over the course of the pandemic, they increased their workers from around 40,000 all the way up to 80,000. So obviously, with the downturn in e-commerce and the problem that they're having with advertisements, especially through iOS, they really have to reduce their the number of employees they have. And the metaverse, they've sunk something like $30 billion into this VR thing that they're trying to do. And absolutely nobody is using it. And I think there was a report recently saying that there's only several hundred people using it at any one time, which is tragic for something that they've put $30 billion into.
Yeah, well, just for those people who have no idea what we're talking about, can you just explain what this metaverse is meant to be?
Yeah, so basically, imagine a video game where you put on goggles and then there's a terrible 1990s version of a conference where you talk to everyone in your company. And I just have no idea why anyone would think that this is a good idea or would want to do it. And the figures really do reflect that, unfortunately, for Zuckerberg.
So essentially, you go into this virtual universe, but there are stores there, aren't there? So big major brands have stores there. And I don't really understand how this works, but essentially you can buy goods in the metaverse, which makes no sense to me at all. Isn't that right? So, for example, if you went to a watch store, you could actually buy one of their watches as a result of being in the metaverse. That's the idea.
Yes, you can customize your avatar by buying clothes and watches and, get a haircut, buy couches for your fake home.
Well, you have a haircut for your avatar?
Yes, that's the idea. You can customize your avatar however you want. But it is such a niche idea. I just don't understand why Zuckerberg is putting all of his eggs into this basket, which clearly is not working and might not see returns for 10 years at least.
I mean, maybe he's just ahead of the curve, but also the avatars, the ones that I've seen, don't have any legs. How do they walk around?
Yes, they just float around.
They just float around, exactly. I mean, if you're going shopping, you do need legs, don't you? Or at least you need to be sitting down or on some form of... I'm very confused by the whole thing. So just in terms of Zuckerberg, I mean, is there a potential that he'll realise the metaverse is not what he thought it would be? Would he just pull out of it?
I feel like it's very unlikely for him to pull out because obviously... Facebook is at the mercy of platforms like Android and iOS, where they are clearly not in control. So what they want to do essentially is create a platform for themselves. And they believe that VR is the next big thing. So they're putting all of their eggs into that basket and fingers crossed, it will eventually catch on.
Yeah, okay, let's move on then. Let's talk about Twitter. There's a lot of news about Twitter. I am so confused.
Yes.
So I have a blue tick, right? And then earlier in the week, I think I had a grey tick. And then it said official, and now it doesn't say official. The grey tick's gone. Could you explain what's going on with that?
Yeah, so Twitter Blue is one of Elon Musk's great ideas to increase revenue on Twitter. So essentially you pay $8 a month to get a blue tick next to your name and also a few other minor features. Unfortunately, as you can imagine, if you allow anyone to get a blue tick, you are going to have issues. So at first they had a second grey tick to confirm, that actual brands are verified, and then obviously that was removed 2 hours later, and now it's back to the flip-flopping a lot, and now you can't even buy the blue tick anymore because the problems with impersonation especially are just so great.
So there were terrible impersonations, weren't there? I know there was a drug company, Eli Lilly, where they pretended to be Eli Lilly, and then they said, we're excited to announce insulin is free now.
And their share price.
And their share price dropped. So really significant impact from people masquerading as people. I mean, the funniest one for me is they actually masqueraded as Tesla and had Tesla real.
They did.
And then basically the Tesla price then dropped because of course, he was impersonating on his own platform.
And so the other thing was I started getting followed by loads of new blue ticks who had no followers. In other words, they were bots. So the whole thing that he said he was going to stop
You're very good
happening.
at this, bots.
Yeah, the whole thing he said was going to stop happening was bots, and suddenly bots had blue ticks.
Yes, I feel like this wouldn't have been such an issue if they actually verified every new person who was getting the blue tick. But obviously, there's so many millions of them that it's impossible to do. So, one funny one that I saw was a fake Nintendo account where there was a picture of Mario flipping the finger at everyone, and obviously that isn't very good for the family-friendly Nintendo brand.
No, so it just seems that Elon Musk has gone in, we were talking about whether he really wanted to buy Twitter, but clearly he's got a big problem to solve. He's coming up with these crazy ideas, and it's just not being enacted properly. And essentially he fired everyone on the board. So there are no checks and balances for Elon Musk at the moment.
Yeah, there really isn't. He is a one-man band, and, basically his board is his Twitter feed and everyone who responds to it. And then he just blocks all the responses that he doesn't like. So, it's just not a great system.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Twitter's meant to be the home of free speech. That's only here on TalkTV.
He actually put a tweet out last week that said that the complaints manager in chief was online now. Please send me your complaints. And within seconds, it had 44,000 complaints.
Oh, good Lord.
I love that. Okay, so Twitter, let's see what happens with that. I suspect it will go back to being those people who are verified, who have blue ticks. Maybe there's a way that I don't know why he messed with the blue one. Maybe the thing they could have done.
To get money.
I know, but maybe you could have bought a grey tick, or I don't know. But we'll see.
He claimed that he wanted to democratize the platform where there's no lords and peasants anymore. But of course, now there's lords and peasants all over again because, the people who've paid for it and who haven't. So it's just very weird.
Very much so. Right, let's move on and stop talking about social media, but let's talk about proper science, which is the Artemis launch. This is NASA. Where are we with this?
Yeah, this is incredibly exciting. I wasn't sure that I'd ever see it in my lifetime even. But it's been 50 years, obviously, since Apollo 17, since last time we landed on the moon. And now NASA is attempting it again with Artemis 1. This is basically a test mission where the spacecraft will just orbit around the moon for 6 days without a manned crew and then return safely and hopefully provide the data for the actual manned launch, which will happen in 2025. And obviously there have been a few delays. As we know, this isn't the first, the second, the third, or even fourth attempt. But hopefully, fingers crossed, on November the 16th, we will see a massive rocket launch towards the moon.
Well, yeah, you say that, but of course they'd wheeled out the rocket ready to go, and then the hurricane came.
Yes.
And so then they had Hurricane Nicole, and then they looked at the predictions and decided, now, do we wheel it back to the shed, or do we not wheel it back to the shed? Now, I imagine moving something like a spacecraft is quite a complicated business. But essentially, the rocket is designed to withstand 85-mile-an-hour winds. And then, during the storm, it went above that. It went over 100 miles an hour. So now we've got a rocket sitting on a launch platform that now is damaged by the hurricane.
Yes, for what NASA have been saying, I think the top speed was 93 miles an hour that they recorded, but that was a bit higher up than the launch pad, which is where they want to take the figures from. So technically it's still under the 85 miles an hour, but even so, there has been a little bit of damage to the spacecraft. However, from what they say, they have repaired it, and fingers crossed. November 16th. Otherwise, they do have some backup dates, the 19th and 25th. And then hopefully, you know, we will finally see the launch after many months of anticipation.
I think this is really interesting. I think, you know, I'm not interested in space. It doesn't inspire me at all, but children do for sure. And lots of people do. And we go to the space. I go with Alice to the Science Museum, and they've obviously got the original Apollo and the pods in there. And every time we go, we run around, we look at them, we talk about how claustrophobic that would be. And children are inspired
But you see, also, you're too young, Davis, but I remember the space shuttle.
Yes.
And I was captivated by the idea of the space shuttle and the fact that you could go up and then it took away the booster rockets and then obviously it jettisoned the main fuel thing, and then to land again was mind-blowing.
Yes, I agree.
It was totally. I mean, I know that you are too young, Davis. So for you,
I was very much alive when the space shuttle was a thing.
Were you? Okay, good. Just in terms, so for you, this is an exciting moment, right? With the Artemis 1.
Yes, I've definitely been following space travel for basically all my life. We did have the Constellation project that unfortunately was quite similar to Artemis but didn't happen. So I'd say this is basically NASA's big comeback. We haven't seen NASA so much in manned space missions quite recently because we've been relying on the Russians and so on. And also the private companies. Yeah. And we did, which is quite unfortunate. And so this is NASA's big mission back. And I think it will be all inspiring for everyone who sees it.
So do I. Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much, Davis. Very good to see you. I hope you have a good rest of the day. That's Davis Fang there, our tech presenter, and that was our Tech Rundown.
Tech Rundown.